So this video is going to finish 6.3. This is day 2 or part 2 of figuring out these parabolas and their shifts. We have horizontal, vertical shifts, and trying to determine whether or not they open up or down, whether you have the happy or smiling or happy or sad face. So I'm going to go through the rest of the examples, and then you will have to finish the huddle and the mastery on your own. But for the most part, we're about halfway through, a little bit more than halfway through, and you should know how to actually answer these questions on here in example 1. So for example 1, and you might have already done a couple of these, but I'm going to go through each one individually. We're going to do the vertex. We're going to label the axis symmetry. We're going to label whether it's a maximum or minimum. So for the first one, how do you tell what the vertex is? Well, that's when you're looking at the formula y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. That's just a generic formula. You're looking for the vertex that's in there. The vertex is always h comma k. So you change the sign of what's in here, and you just bring whatever number this is as your second point here. It's your xy. So if you look at the first example, y equals 2x squared, there is no something x minus h in there. There is no plus k. So there's nothing going on here. Technically, this could be written as 2 times x minus 0 squared plus 0. So that means the vertex is not moved at all. It's still at 0, 0. Axis of symmetry, that also comes from the number that's inside here, or you can memorize it as coming from here. It's just the number that's in the x value here. So we say it's x equals 0. Max or min, how you determine that? Now you can finally look at the front number. So this number here, or here rather, doesn't matter. The 2 out front, all we have to decide whether it's positive or negative. If it's positive, that means you have a happy face. And so how does that help you answer the max or min? Well, if you have a happy face and the arrows are pointing up, that means they go up forever, but they don't go down forever. There is a point at the very bottom here, the vertex, where it does not go any lower, so it has a minimum. All right, for the next one. Looking here again, we're looking for our vertex, HK, comparing that to up here. So we're looking at this -2 and the +1. Now remember, we have to change the sign of what's in here. So if it's a -2, it becomes a +2. This also means that the vertex goes to the right 2 and it goes up 1. That is your vertex. So the right 2 and then up 1. You have to remember that inside the parentheses it changes signs. Axis of symmetry, again, that comes from this number out front. Not out front, but this one here. That means this is the line that you would draw right down the middle that cuts it in half, looks the same on both sides. And max or min. So how do you determine that? You look at the front number here. It's 3. 3 would mean it's positive. So A is 3. So since it's positive, you get that minimum happy face, so minimum. Number 3, what's the vertex? Well, we don't have anything on the outside, so we can put a +0, right? Remember, the inside, you got to change the sign, so it becomes a -4. The outside here is your vertical change, 0. So we're going to be going to the left 4, and then up or down. We're not going up or down. It just stays the same. So just left 4. Axis of symmetry, again, comes to the first number there, x equals -4. Max or min, well, now we have a negative number out here, so this is actually a -1. Doesn't matter. It's negative. Doesn't matter what number it really is, as long as we know it's negative or positive. That means you're going to have a sad face. So this goes down forever, but it has a maximum point up here. That's the highest it goes, so it's maximum. 4. There is nothing in the parentheses here because there is no parentheses. So I could rewrite this if you want. I could write this as x plus, I guess I do minus. Let's change that. X minus 0 squared minus 1. That means the same thing. So the vertex would be changing the sign of 0, which you don't because there's no changing sign of 0. So it's just 0, and then this goes down 1, so it's -1. 0, -1. Axis of symmetry, that comes from that front number there in the coordinate 0, and max or min. So this one doesn't have a number out front. So if it does not have a number, you should know what that number is, and it is 1. You can put 1 in both positions. Since it's positive, happy face, that will be a minimum. You should go through yourself and figure out these as well. So I'm going to go a little faster. Vertex here is in the middle and then the outside, so it's -3. Got to change the sign. That stays the same. Axis symmetry comes from out front here, -3. Max or min, well, the number out front is a 3, so that's positive. Again, happy face. It's got to be a minimum. 6, vertex. Change that sign because it's inside the parentheses. -8. Outside is 1. That stays the same. Axis symmetry. X equals -8. Max or min, the outside number is negative. It's actually -1, so that would be a sad face, so therefore a maximum. 7, vertex. Change the inside here to +6. Outside does not change. It always stays the same. 6, -10. Axis symmetry is going to be 6. Max or min, outside number here is 2. So it's a happy face, therefore minimum. All right, one more, and then we're actually going to graph this stuff by hand. Vertex is going to be, change the sign here, -1. Outside is -2. Axis symmetry, I don't need that. Axis symmetry comes from here. Again, x equals -1. Max or min, this number is a -2. Because it's negative, we have a sad face. Therefore, it has a maximum point. And I went through that kind of fast, but hopefully at this point you should know how to do all these. And so the next two examples are going to be doing the same thing, but now we're just going to graph it. So no different here. We're just going to graph something by hand. State the coordinates of the vertex, the prod with the equation. Okay, so we have the equation here, and we're going to state the coordinates of the vertex. Let's not forget to do that. So we'll say the vertex is, like we did before, it's going to be +1, -2. And I don't know if you noticed, but that point here is actually already on the table. It's right here. 1, and then we can fill it in, -2. And then we're going to do the rest by hand. So we're going to plug in 0. If you plug in 0 here, I'll write one of them out, and then the rest you just do by hand. So 2 times, this would be 0 minus 1 squared minus 2. So to finish this would be 2 times -1 squared minus 2. -1 squared is 1, so it's 2 times 1 minus 2. 2 times 1 is 2, minus 2 equals 0. So 0, 0. I'm going to plot these as I go maybe. 1, -2. We have 0, 0. Plug in -1. Do this by hand in your head. So this would be -1 minus 1 is -2. I'm doing it up here, by the way. So this would be -2 on the inside. Square is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 minus 2 is 6. And I don't know if you've noticed, but if you do the opposite direction over here, 2 and 3, these bottom two, they're going to match up with these top two answers. So you can try it yourself, but you should also get 0, 6 here. Plug them in and see. Now I'm going to plot the rest of these. So -1 is 6. And let's see, 2, 0, and 3 is also 6. And then you draw it. Just a basic sketch. Draw a little better than that, of course. And mine's not that good. If I could try it again. I'm not sure that's any better. Oh, you get the idea. So we just did it completely by hand. We're only using a couple points. Really, once you know the vertex, you only need the one side of the points because these two numbers here are going to match those two for the y values. What's the equation for the axis of symmetry? So where would you draw it down the middle? That always comes from here, the x value. So it's x equals 1. So if I were to draw that, it's at x equals 1. So here's 1, and you would draw it like this, right down the middle. And if you were to draw it perfectly, it would look the same on both sides. Does the parabola have a max or a min? Well, clearly it's happy face, so it has to have a minimum. Oh boy. There we go. Minimum. All right, we're going to try another one. And then there's a huddle for you to finish. And then we'll do 2 more problems and be done. There's some mastery problems here as well. All right, example 3. State the coordinates of the vertex. So what is the vertex here? We don't need a calculator for this stuff. We can basically just do this by hand. Vertex is going to be change that sign to a -1, and this comes down as a 3. And again, I put that in the table for you. -1 shows up right in the middle, so you just bring down the other part of it, 3. So we already have our point, -1 and then 3. Here it is. That's -1, 3. And if you look at this, this here is going to mean it's going to be a sad face. So if I were to just draw a basic sketch, I think it's going to look something like this, right? If yours does not end up being looking like that, then you did something wrong, because we know that this means it's going to be a sad face. So I'm going to get some actual points to see what it looks like. Let's plug in 0. That's easy. Plug in 0 here. I'll show the work for that one. So it's -0 plus 1 squared plus 3. That would be 1 in the inside, so it's negative. So it would be 1 squared plus 3. 1 squared is 1. You still have a negative on the outside. Still there. Plus 3. Looks like we're going to get 2. So 0, 2 is a point, which also means that the -2 is also a 2. Plug in 1. That would be 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 squared is 4. There's a negative on the outside, so -4 plus 3, -1. So 1 is -1. And that must mean -3 is also -1. Just to let you know that these two mirror these two. So you only have to actually do 3 points total. Or actually, you only have to do 2 once you get the vertex. All right, so then we have -2 is 2, and then -3 is -1. Here we go. So here's our sad face that we knew we were going to get. Just a little bit more accurate because we have some more points to plot now. What's the equation for axis of symmetry? That always comes from the number and the x value here. X equals -1. So if I were to draw it on here, it would go right down the middle at -1. That's what cuts it in half. That one looks a little bit more symmetric than my last one. Does it probably have a maximum or minimum? Obviously, it has a maximum. And you could have figured that out by looking at the equation, because the negative sign on the outside. So it's a maximum. All right, then you have the huddle to do, which has a problem, 2 problems on it. So you guys can do that one, and I'm going to go over 4 and 5. So going to the last 2 examples, all we have left to do is to figure out how do we create the equation when we're giving an equation. So we're given a graph. We're given the new graph. How do we create the equation from looking at the graph? Let's read through it. So consider the parabolas at the right. These ones here. The one that passes through the origin has the equation y equals 1/5 x squared. So this is saying it's taking this one here. It's labeling our blue one as that. So this right here is 1/5 x squared. Well, that makes sense. The 1/5 is positive, so it should be a fairly wide happy face, and it is. I don't know if you remember, but the smaller the fraction here, the wider it's going to be on the graph. So the other parabola, the green one, is its image under a translation. That just means it's the same graph, but it just moved. Translation means it is shifted somewhere. We're going to find an equation for that image. So we're going to find an equation for the green one. So how do we do that? First, you should know and memorize the equation for vertex form. It goes y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. All we really need to figure out is one or two things. Where does the a come from? They give that to you. So if you memorize is that the a is out in front, they're giving us the 1/5. So far we have y equals 1/5. We have to figure out the rest. X minus something squared plus something. What is h and k? Remember, h comma k is the vertex. So if you look on here, we just got to find the vertex, really. Can we find it in this green graph? The vertex is the lowest or the highest point. So I think it's right here. What's the highlighter look like? There we go. It's right there. What's this? Purple. Okay. This point right here. Ooh. Not sure about that. Okay. So this point here is the vertex. So let's figure out what that point is. That's 4 and a -2. So the point here is 4, -2. That's your xy. So that is going to be your hk. So we're going to plug in 4. I do have to change color. 4 and -2 plus a -2. That's your answer. I don't know if you remember, but the vertex, remember you have to take this inside here and change it because it means it's going to the right 4. So it went over to the right 4, and then -2 means it went down 2. If you wanted to take out the plus sign, you could do that too. So you could just have a -2. That's all you have to do. So to recap, all you have to do is look at the number they give you out front and use it. Still out front. That's your a value. And then once you find the vertex of your new graph that you're looking at, once you find this vertex here, then you have to plug in the xy. It goes x minus your h value, and then on the outside it's plus k. In this case, we had a negative number, so it turns to a -2. I'm going to try one more, and they'll be done. Consider the parabolas at the right. The parabola P passes through the origin and has the equation y equals -2x squared. Okay, so here's P, and we know that this equation is y equals -2x squared. That should make sense. It is a sad face because it's a negative number out here. And we know the vertex is at the center here. It's at 0, 0. And then we're moving it. It says parabola Q is its image under a translation. So it took the original P and it moved it over here. Q is the new one. We're going to find an equation for parabola Q. Pretty easy again. I always like to start with the formula. A times x minus h squared plus k. I would take a moment and memorize it. Okay, so what is A? Again, they give you A every time. This is like the parent graph in a sense. They're saying start with this equation and then mess with the horizontal and vertical shifts. So where does A come from? Right here out front. So I'm going to throw that in there. So I have y equals -2 times x minus something squared plus something else. We just got to fill in the blanks. Change colors. What is the new vertex? Let's see. -1, 2, 3, 4. This is -5. And then we're going to go up to, looks like we're going to be at 12. So the vertex here, the maximum point is -5, 12. Okay. So we're going to plug in -5. And don't worry, there is a double negative. That's okay. We'll fix it. And then the other part is 12. So we have a plus 12. Not -12, because we have a positive 12, so it's plus 12. And that makes sense. It works. So just to finish this up, y equals -2, and then in parentheses, x double negative will just turn to a plus 5 squared plus 12. That's it. Now, if you look at this and you think, well, how do I go backwards with this? If I gave you this as a problem, could you graph it yourself? Probably, right? You would say, what's the vertex? You would take this and you'd switch it to the opposite sign. So you'd say -5, the outside stays the same, 12, and that's your vertex. And that was the vertex up here. The -2 means you're going to have a maximum point, and we do. And then you could also then make a little table like we've been doing, but we don't have to do that in this case because we're just trying to find the equation. So it may look more complicated than what it actually is. All we need is the a value that they give us. They give us the a value, and then you have to figure out, well, what's the new vertex that we shifted from? So you started at 0, 0 and went to -5, 12. So the last part of the team mastery is just actually graphing some more. There is no come up with your own equation, but that will be on the test as well. So it will be on the test and the study guide. So you should make sure you know how to do this as well. But I don't think it's that difficult. But that will wrap up 6.3, day 2.